Properly hyped up for this one. A game, Darren, that Newcastle really had Arsenal's number the last little while.
Yeah, the last couple of times, actually, because they've won each of their last two against Arsenal without conceding. That takes some doing when you consider the firepower that Arsenal have and the creativity in their forward line as well, and they've added Gyökeres too. But as far as Newcastle are concerned, the question is the right one, because they're still sore from losing Isak, but Voltemada's come in, Nick Voltemada, and he's done a little bit just to ease that pain. Scoring at St James's Park, earning the trust and the adoration of that fans is going to go a long way to helping him to get his feet under the table even more quickly. But I think in this game, Newcastle are going to really have to be at their defensive best, because Arsenal will come at them, and they've got the weaponry to be able to do that. And they've got that creativity in midfield as well. This is going to be a very, very tight game, and I don't think there'll be one goal in this one.
What I find interesting, I was at St James's Park for the first time last week, completely blown away by the place, by the way. Great energy. But Eddie Howe went for Anthony Gordon instead of Nick Voltemada, and he just, played his first game and he scored his first goal. Gordon suspended at the time, so wasn't playing domestically. Now my question is, what does he do this weekend? Will we see both of them in the lineup because Gordon's back from suspension?
I think it's possible we could see both of them in the lineup. I think they both offer different things, which also is why Eddie Howe might make a decision to go with one more than the other. I think, obviously, we saw Gordon playing the 9 against Liverpool, and I think that the intensity and the pace he can offer them in that position, when you can imagine a lot of the game at times, or there could be moments in the game where they suffer out of possession, they might need that sort of pace and intensity. I think that may be the reason why he goes with Gordon. Also, Gordon knows the opposition, a bit of familiarity. That said, Voltemada's come in, he's done really well, he's exciting, it's a home game. I think Eddie Howe wants to approach the game where he's focused on what they're going to do, whilst acknowledging you're up against Arsenal.
If you're a defender, what's easier for you, Voltemada or Gordon?
I don't think either are easier. I would probably say, for me, I wouldn't have enjoyed playing up against someone like Gordon, where you just constantly know they have that pace is just never ending, and you constantly know that even in situations whereby, you clear a ball and you think I'm more favourable to get this. Yeah. They know someone with that amount of pace. That said, Voltemada is not, physically he has the attributes as well. You don't play in the Premier League without a level of high-speed running capacity. That sprint distance as well is important. So I would expect probably both will feature. Likely both will be on the pitch at the same point at some time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were wondering if he was a stopgap, because of everything that was going on around Newcastle and their search for that number 9. But Gordon spoke, I think, after one of the first games he played there, and said, well, he's kind of enjoying that, and he gave the impression that he wasn't just doing it in the moment because they needed someone to fill that position. It's somewhere that he maybe wants to go. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, since he signed for them, he's set up a goal for his country in the Germany win over. He scored a goal himself. And the reason why I think I would have played him in that game in Europe, because momentum is everything, as we all know, in football. But also, in this game, I would play him because his height is an obvious strength. And Arsenal are so very good at set pieces. But he's got terrific touch. It's the one thing that struck me from looking at games he's played in and doing research and looking at the games in which he's been effective. His touch is excellent. And so, and actually it was through that ability to release players that he was able to set up Serge Gnabry to score for Germany against Northern Ireland. So I think that he could be more of a danger than people might think for Newcastle against Arsenal, and I do think he could be effective in both boxes, given how good Arsenal are at set pieces and free kicks.
I know it's very early on in the season, but given Arsenal's recent history, as Darren reminded us, up at St James's Park, given that Liverpool play 24 hours before them and could open that gap up a little bit more at the top, is this already a situation where they cannot afford to drop any more points?
It's definitely not easy. I think it's a game that does come with pressure for Arsenal, because these are the sorts of tests where you go, this isn't an easy game. It's going to test our limits. We've been in the wrong end of a result fairly recently against this side. But equally, these are the sorts of games whereby Arsenal, these are the tighter margins where we're now looking at Arsenal to say, you've got to pick up 3 points here if, you realistically do want to go and challenge Liverpool for the title.
The key thing is as well that you look at the goal that Isak was able to score. It was an aerial goal. It was a ball into the box, and you've got height in that Arsenal back line, but they weren't able to cut it out. They've got the players who can provide the ammunition for Voltemada. The other key thing about this game is that if you look at where Liverpool are in the context of your question, Liverpool lost last season 2 games on the way to winning the title. They lost 4 in total, but by the time they lost the other 2, the title was won.
Yeah.
That's 6 points they dropped in the entirety of the title-winning campaign, excluding the other 2 games. Arsenal are 5 points behind. As to your point, they can't afford to give Liverpool any more ground. If they were to lose tomorrow and Liverpool were to win this weekend, then suddenly it's a real problem.
Mikel Arteta's team selection is heavily criticised and has been. He now has the squad that many are saying is the one he requires to go all the way in the title race, but he doesn't seem to be getting the selections right. Eze on the bench against Manchester City, Martinelli, who'd scored that winning goal the game before, on the bench as well. In the end, when he was introduced, he did manage to equalise for them against City. It's this time and this kind of game where Arteta, I know he made jokes about playing a little bit with the handbrake on him. You made it post one of the press conferences. But this time around, are we expecting to see Eze, who did start and score in midweek, we're expecting him to start?
I mean, to expect, I think, is something that's probably difficult to say. And I think some of this criticism is really harsh because we need to remember that we only see the Arsenal team on a match day, and Mikel Arteta's working with them day in, day out. There's different reasons why you start players, and nowadays, as everyone keeps saying, your bench is absolutely pivotal. I mean, that was a great goal late on in the game. Those, for me, are the moments where actually you go, yeah, this is why we do have the depth. We make the changes. Players are motivated to go on and try and take advantage of that. No player wants to be a sub, but we are in a situation now where you play for the top clubs, you have to understand there will be other players that will also, you typically have 2 players in every position and everyone wants to start. Everyone's good enough to start, but only half of you can. Yeah. So that's sort of the nature of it, and therefore it's up to Mikel Arteta to pick who he wants. I think some of the criticism is harsh for me because he's very articulate. There's so much goes into your team selection. And typically, as fans, you see what happens last weekend, and you think, well, they were great last weekend. They scored. I would start them. That's as fans, we go, I'd put them in starting 11. But there is a lot more to factor in. Away from home at Newcastle, there's the emotional, mental factor. You have to consider. He knows his players better than we do.
Darren, do you think the criticism is warranted?
No, I don't actually. I think he's got a terrific squad of players, and it is about managing the players. It's about managing their minutes. It's about making sure that the injury problems that really did cost him last season, and even as threatening this season, people forget Saka's had his problems. Maduiki's having his problems now. Havertz has had his problems. And actually, the way they've been able to respond to those problems, Mosquera came in for Saliba in the Liverpool game. In midfield, Zubimendi's been outstanding. So people don't feel the loss of Havertz as much as they would have done. And before Mosquera was injured, he too was able to deputise for Saka. And the fact that they can call on Eze on top of all of that says that the buying policy has been really good. So he's got to manage those minutes. And also, the other thing is Martinelli's been more effective coming on as a sub rather than starting games too. So in many respects, I'm with you. I think that I look at Arteta and sometimes he looks like a bit of a haunted man because Arsenal have a huge fan base, a huge worldwide digital fan base. And every time there is a misstep for them, for a club that is desperate to win the league, Arteta gets it. He knows he doesn't have that much room for manoeuvre. So I feel a little bit of sympathy for him, but I think he's trying to do the right thing.
If you were Martinelli and you'd scored 2 crucial goals in 2 big games in the league to help get your side, would you be raging that you weren't in the starting 11?
I certainly know some players that would be raging if that was the situation.
I don't think Martinelli's much of a rager, but that's what we say if you were in that position.
It's so tough. I just was listening to Darren there and thinking, as a player, if someone's like, oh, great off the bench, though, that is like the worst news you can hear as a player. But it can be a thing, and I think Martinelli's made a great contribution. I think he's been at the club now a consistent period of time where the fans have grown to love him. I think he has a great connection with them. He's made big impacts in enough games now where people know what he's about. I think there's probably still some question marks over, can you do it